All right, so not quite sure where I went on the camera. Oh, the camera's over there. You're getting tripped out. Okay, so I see that we have Charlie and Caleb and Rose are online. Hi, you guys. I'm going to get started. Those of you that are online, you should be able to access the peer review PowerPoint. So if you can, you should go, and it's right next to the link. So I'll give you all just a second. You can open that up. And while you're getting ready and everybody else, one thing that you're going to need at the end is I'm going to have you pull up your peer review conversations, and we're going to use that at the end as our practice. So if you have your phone or your laptop, go ahead and take just a second and make sure that you can access Blackboard. If you can't for some reason, you all have somebody next to you and you can pull it up with them. One awesome thing about cell phones is that you can download, if you haven't already, the Blackboard app, and you can actually peer review as you're walking between classes or walking on the treadmill or something like that, so that you can get these peer reviews done. Because you can get a peer review done in about, what, 10 minutes, right? You can read a summary, read the comments, make a comment in about 10 minutes and knock that out. And so you can constantly participate in those conversations on your mobile device. All right, I think we have a couple others. So Caleb, Robert, Sheila, nice to see all of you. All right, I'm going to get started. This is about peer review, and this presentation is different than all of the other peer review instructions and videos that you've seen. So hopefully you'll get a little bit out of this as well. I'm going to go over why we peer review, the conversation model, getting the conversation started, anatomy of a peer review comment, and keeping the conversation going. So why? A lot of students ask this, why do we have to peer review? Are you kidding me? Well, peer review helps us to get help. We don't want just our instructor to give us help. The kind of help we get from our instructor is one type of help. But sometimes we need other points of view, other eyes to look at our work. So we peer review in order to get help on our writing, get help within the class. And also, we want to help others. And that's just a nice thing to do, is help other people in the writing classroom. But when we do that, we actually help ourselves. So we can see it as a selfish act. If I go and read 2 other summaries, I'm seeing 2 other ways to read G's text, or whatever text you're reading in 1143. You get another way to see that text, and you're like, oh, my goodness, I didn't see it that way. And so now I can see the text in a new way. So we can selfishly get some information out of doing peer review. So it helps others, but also helps ourselves. And then we improve our own written communication skills. The more that we read, the more that we see how others structure something, the better that we can do in our own writing. The conversational model is something different in this writing center, in this writing program. Oftentimes peer review is somebody gives me their paper, I silently comment on that paper, and give it back. And that's it. I never talk to the writer. We never talk about the comments I gave. The writer never asks me questions. I just give them the worksheet that I filled out, and that's it. That isn't really helpful, because as the writer, I might be left going, I don't understand these comments. Or, okay, I understood this, but I think I need more. And so going back and being able to ask the peer reviewer and having a conversation with the peer reviewer is quite helpful. And we also, so we have writing as discourse, as a conversation. Writing is also public. Writing is not meant to be between just a student and an instructor or 2 students. It's supposed to be something that we do for others. Writing is public. It's on the internet. It's in journals. So putting our writing out there for multiple people to see helps us to view writing as being a public document. And then here in our program, we have the peer review conversation, which really does emphasize the fact that we are talking with each other about writing. So when we get the conversation started, the writer begins the conversation. The writer posts the text. Here's my summary. And then the writer should post what they thought they did well. This is what I did well. Or you can do that whole apology thing. I totally missed the deadline and really sucks. Sometimes we need to get that out there. You just want to say, okay, I'm going to get that out there. This was rushed. However, I still think you can help me in these ways. And the writer directs the conversation and says, here are the things that you can do to help me. Anytime a student comes into my office, if you hand me a piece of writing, I'm not just going to read it. I'm going to look at you and I'm going to say, that's nice. What do you want from me? How can I help you? And I make you tell me what kinds of comments you want. It's the same thing in the peer review conversation. Your peers should not just guess at what they think you want to hear. Tell them, I need help with the details. I need help with the organization. I need help with the first sentence. Whatever it is you need help with, tell them. It doesn't have to be formal. It could be just a couple of words. Help me organize my thoughts. That's it, but you start the conversation. Like I said, you can break the ice. I'm having trouble with this. And then you should always lead that conversation. Be in charge of your own writing, of your peer review conversation. And the anatomy of a peer review comment. I think it's really important that we think about how to structure that peer review comment. It has 3 parts. 1, praise. 2, areas that require revision. 3, suggestions for revision. Praise. As a writer, I want to hear something good first. Don't just start breaking my stuff apart. Tell me something good. Tell me it to be kind to my feelings, but also tell me it so that I know what I don't have to change. If it is well organized, tell me. If I have one sentence that is good that I should absolutely not touch, tell me. Tell me what not to change. Tell me one thing I did well. So praise me. Tell me something that I did well. Specifically praise me. Give me areas that require revision. So if I have left out information, tell me I've left out information. If I have an essay a summary that's too long, tell me it's too long. Tell me what I need to fix. And then tell me from your perspective how to fix it. It's okay if you don't think that your suggestions are the best, but tell the person, if this were me, this is what I would do. If this were me, I would switch around the 3rd and 4th sentences. If this were my summary, I would delete the quote. Whatever it is that you would do if it was your summary. Make sure that you give specific suggestions. Don't just say you need to reorganize, because your peer is probably going to go, yeah, I can figure that out, but I don't know what to do. So tell them from your perspective how they might do that. And it's okay if you don't know fully. And it's okay if the writer says, you're crazy. I'm not going to do what you said. It's okay. It's the act of participating in the conversation and trying to give suggestions. So here are a couple of sample comments that do what we want them to do. The first one, your opening sentence is great. I think you present G's claim completely, but your summary doesn't fully explain the claim you present. You state all of the elements of discourse, but you don't talk about big D discourse and why we should analyze DD discourse. I think that it's because you ran out of words. You can condense what you present by chunking the elements together in themes instead of just listing them 1, 2, 3. Then you'll have enough words left to finish explaining G's claim. So if you notice, your opening sentence is great, which is vague. I think you present G's claim completely. So I didn't just say, great job. I said, what specifically was great about that? And then I say, what isn't working? Your summary doesn't fully explain the claim you present. And then I go in and say, here's how you can fix that. You can fix that by condensing the beginning so that you have enough words to finish talking about the claim. So it's very specific. This is a sample I wrote, and then this second sample is one I found in our class. So this is actually from our class, sample 2. I really like the opening sentence you wrote for your summary. It is a great lead-in to summarize what discourse analysis is according to James G. You provide a definition for discourse analysis that G gives, but I'm not sure you explain thoroughly what it means. You use a lot of terminology from the essay as well. I think if you expand on the meaning of the terms, you would have more of a summary of the essay rather than a summary of how G wrote the essay. So in this particular comment, we have all the same parts. What was really good, what that does, why it's good, and then this but I'm not sure you explain it. So what's missing and then how to fix that. So it's very specific and it follows the anatomy of a strong peer review conversation, peer review comment. Keep the conversation going at all times. So the peer review process is you put the text out there, the writer gives a self-review, there's a conversation between the reviewers and the author. At the end, the writer should go in and say, wow, this is what I'm going to take away from your comments, thank you. And this is my revision plan. Reflect on, show your peer reviewers that you're coming back and reading their comments. This is a really important reason why. If your reviewers think that you, remember there are like 7 people per group. Oh, is that you?
Sounds like Amber.
You've been getting texts?
Oh, yeah.
It's your phone. Yeah. It does. It's either Amber or Silver Lake. Okay. You are competing for other people for peer review comments. If your reviewer thinks that you're using their comments, they're very likely going to continue to review your work. And also, if they review your work, you should review their work. That way there becomes this partnership with others. If people think that you're completely disregarding what they're saying, then by the end of the semester, nobody's going to be reviewing you anymore. It's a really nice thing to go in and acknowledge. It's like anything. Somebody acknowledges you and says happy birthday on Facebook. You go in and you say, thanks, right? So that then they will comment on your birthday the next time or continue commenting. It's just something that we do in social media. We take that same ethic into our peer review conversations. So you want to go in, thank everybody, and then tell them what you're going to do with their comments. You as the writer, I cannot emphasize this enough, you direct the conversation. If you don't go in and continue to push back on your peers, tell them what you're getting from that conversation, then they're not going to continue to post comments, or you're not going to get as much out of the conversation as you could. In this presentation, I quickly went over why we do peer review, talked about the conversation model, how this is to be a conversation, talked about the anatomy of the peer review comment, how to get started and how to keep going. We are now going to look at a guided practice where in these next 3 slides, I'm going to present an example of a peer review comment, and then I'm going to ask you what suggestions you have to make that comment better, to improve that comment. What I'm going to do is have you just work in kind of like 3, a pair, 3, and I'll say what the comment is. You guys discuss quickly, and then you can tell me how you would change that. And to those of you that are online, right now you can do the same thing. If you have the PowerPoint open, you can type in what suggestions you have to improve, and I'll read some of those suggestions out, okay? So the first one is, I like how you emphasize G's example of language being like film and use that to build upon. That's your first one. How would you improve this peer review comment? So go ahead and talk amongst each other. And those online, you can also participate. I'm going to get this going.
Too big.
They're not supposed to demonstrate how they can.
So is that like a whole peer review someone would write, or is that just like part of one?
No, that was all the person.
Okay.
further.
Turned it in 11:59.
Didn't get any bad feedback, I'm like, right?
Yeah, well, they could have,
Yeah, and really just complimented, but didn't like, give anything like bad, like he says like, everything's okay, especially the sentence. It's like nothing else is bad.
He's trying to be nice.
It's like, hey,
Sorry, it's a terrible.
it's not the worst comment I've ever heard, like the word JK.
It's like, LOL, nice.
Okay, just real quick, those of you online, I see some great questions coming in. I'll answer those in a minute. Right now, we're going to be looking at example 1 on the PowerPoint. So I like how you emphasized G's example of language being film and use that to build upon. What's missing?
Everything, just like, it's just one sentence.
Well, but what does it do?
It does not-
It praises, and it's specific though, right? It gives a specific praise. I like how you emphasize, and it gives the exact emphasis that is working. So for a praise sentence, it's great, but it's missing the other 2 parts. So what would you do? What would you maybe add in? What could you add in?
Mention what I do not like about it, what I think hurts the summary, and ways that they could work on building it up.
Exactly. So you want to put in what needs to be changed and then how, ways that you can change that. Perfect. So that's the first example. Example 2. I think that listing the 8 jobs doesn't really flow, especially since you had just made another list of couple sentences prior. Maybe it's because there are 8, or maybe it's because I feel that they should be organized better, maybe with a semicolon. And don't forget to include the title of the text too, so we know what you're actually summarizing. So talk about that for about 30 seconds.
Those exclamations.
Positive feedback is good, in a sense of like saying what's bad and what they should actually specifically.
It also goes from focus to about a little bit of the
Yeah, it's like positive feedback.
Dude's like shouting at him.
Yeah, it's really very like I guess it's straightforward. There's no person.
Put it this way, you don't know what's particularly good that you're
let's,
saying, what you need looking
Yeah,
at
there's
versus what you
2
not.
lines. It's not specific. That's a good point.
You could explain why flow means, like, what's his feeling of flow? Like, rapping, does he want it to rhyme?
He's just shouting like
To rap.
it's just that thing. Trying to help it.
Yeah,
I don't, like, I feel like the flow thing, just, I don't get why.
Yeah.
What does he mean by, like, change the order I put it in, or?
Okay, this group said something right off the bat about punctuation. What did you all say?
Prior, yeah, explanation point.
The exclamation points. How does that make you feel?
Like angry.
Kind of hurts.
Like you're being shouted at, right? So we need to be really careful about the tone that we use in the peer review comments. Here, I'm being shouted at. 4 exclamation points. Like bam, bam, bam. Oh my goodness. As a writer, I think I would like cower a little bit. Not just for the exclamation points, but what's missing?
Positive feedback.
Positive feedback. There's no praise. So I would be like, I'm being shouted at. I'm being given how to fix it, but I'm being shouted at, and I don't have any good, nothing, no praise here. And so I would be taken aback especially as a student. I'd be like, oh, I suck, right? We don't want that. So we want to watch our punctuation, and we want to add praise to this particular comment. And then we have the idea of flow. It depends on what class you're in. I talk a lot about flow. Flow of writing means it has coherence, it has transitions.
Yeah.
So maybe flow is definitely a term that some students may or may not understand. If ever you are given comments that you don't understand, that's when you as the writer directs. I don't know what flow is. What is flow? What do you mean by flow? And then the peer reviewer or somebody else in the group could say, oh, flow means you need better transitions. That is your opportunity as the writer to come back and say, what do you mean? So that's a great question. And then the third example, I think altogether this is a well-written summary. You have done a very good job, and I hope maybe you could revise mine, as I feel that I need a lot of help in a lot of areas. Your thesis is good, and I do believe it is short but sweet, but maybe a little too short and sweet. Adding in another detail or two might dress it up a little more. That way I know it is your thesis as soon as I read it. Other than that, I was very impressed. So talk amongst yourselves for about 30 seconds.
I think it's pretty well balanced between the other ones. More like, come on, this one's like passive aggressive.
A little too buttery.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's.
I don't know, like, could you help me?
Yeah.
You wrote good.
I'll be right by side.
There's some.
You guys add,
Niggas,
like,
you have a very good job, man.
I saw that, but I don't really yours.
You're not gonna get
Well,
Like that,
they still wanted what they noticed that was good. Like, I'm pretty sure
I
these
feel like
is too short.
feel
I
like
know that
one
for sure.
is
I may not be good at everything else, but I'm pretty
I don't think
positive.
any of what.
Yeah. Like, it's like hard work, you someone you don't have to like bring down your credibility.
Okay, let's come back together. What did you see? What did you notice?
They
here?
were really nice.
Yeah, like.
It's really nice, so lots of praise.
Yeah, a little too buttery.
Little too smooth, but does it say what needs to be fixed?
No, that's.
Yeah.
Detail or two.
Yeah.
Add a detail or two, so it says what needs to be fixed. Does it really tell me how?
No.
No, so what could be added? A suggested detail. So tell me which detail from G you as the reviewer would have added in. So as the reviewer, just open up your book real quick and say, look, this detail, talk about the waiter. Just give a suggestion, give a quick suggestion as to what you can put in. Now, there are lots of questions. I want to pause real quick before we go into revising our own and answer some of these questions and maybe some of yours that people are posting. All right, so Rose definitely agreed with everybody. It's really nice. However, it didn't give an actual detail that would be helpful to really help me. Okay, so a lot of peers, a lot of people here are saying, all right, so I'm getting all of these suggestions. What if I don't agree with the suggestion? Or what if it's wrong? And I'll tell you that the comments I even give students could be wrong in terms of how you felt that you wanted to make your message come across. Even when you come see me, I never say that you have to put into your paper the suggestions I give you. I've had tons of students say, I really appreciated your suggestions, but I went a different direction. I never want to force you to revise your paper, and nobody should ever force you to revise your paper in a certain way. You as the writer always makes the ultimate decision as to what to write. So you can just say, hey, you know what? That detail was a great suggestion. However, I've decided to do this detail instead. So as the writer, you just tell them, that was a nice suggestion, thank you, but I'm not going to do that. Or, I think you misunderstood me. So this is what I meant to say. If I write my sentence this way, do you understand it now? So you could say, I think you're giving me advice in a different direction because you misunderstood me. Also, sometimes as peer reviewers, we might read it too fast and we might give a suggestion that's misleading. So as the writer, we make the decision. I don't want to follow your suggestion. I get to make that choice. And so, but there is no really wrong peer review. The peer review just might be different than what you were looking for or different than what you expected. And you just say, I respectfully decline that suggestion. And so we have the opportunity as writers to decline even your instructor or your peer tutor's suggestion at any time. So hopefully that helps there. Let's look at some of these other questions. Let's see. Jamie, I think this is Jamie, no, Ashley asked about what if the person is talking about grammar, style. Remember that in peer review, we don't want to talk about grammar unless the grammar is impeding the meaning of the sentence. If the grammar is off and you're like, because of the grammar of your sentences, I don't understand what you're saying, then you can mention grammar. But grammar is an editing, something that we do in the editing stage. Editing is the last thing that we do. In revision, we shouldn't be commenting on each other's grammar at all. That should only be commented upon if it's messing up the meaning. And so that we shouldn't worry about whether or not they're telling us the correct grammar, because we shouldn't be commenting on grammar. Let's see. Jamie asks, what if I really don't see anything wrong with the essay? Even if there's not something wrong, because you might say, okay, they have the content right. You might be able to give a suggestion for style. Hey, your second sentence could be written a little bit more smoothly. You can add a transition word between these two sentences in order to make the connection better. So we always can make some sort of revision. So try to give one comment. If you absolutely cannot think of anything to say, then say that. I absolutely cannot think of anything to say. So that the writer really knows that you've thought about it. So make sure it's evident. So Jamie, just make sure that it's evident that you have given that a consideration. Let's see. And one other thing I want to say is that sometimes we might say, well, I don't feel like I'm a very strong writer, so I don't know what to say, or I don't feel like I have the authority to say something. You're a strong reader. You all have been reading your entire lives. So if something doesn't make sense, you know that you can point that out. You know that you can say, or if you know that something's missing from the summary, you can say that. You don't have to be the best writer in the world in order to give strong comments. Do any of you have questions? I've fielded all the questions of the people online. How about you all that are here? Do you have any questions in addition to those? Okay, then let's do the guided practice. What I want you to do now is pull up the peer review conversations you participated in recently, and what I want you to do is find one of the comments and then see if you can make that comment stronger. We don't want to ever delete a comment, but we can add to it. We can add an additional comment. So look for one that maybe now you could say something else. And if you can't pull yours up, work with somebody else that's here.
What if we put our premium in?
That's okay, as long as it's in there. These are short enough comments.
How do you edit your comment?
You wouldn't edit your comment, you'll add another comment.
adding another comment, right?
You would add a comment. So if you see that you forgot phrase or you give an actual suggestion, you would just add that. I'm going to stay for questions and I'll help anybody that's continuing to work on their comment. Just to close up, those of you that are working on a comment, if you'll just tell us, what are you doing? What did you decide that you needed to add or change to a comment? Yes?
Well, I noticed in my first comment to this person, I didn't, like, when I stayed on grammar, I didn't, like, I did more of editing and revision thing because that's what stood out to me most. But I know there's one thing I couldn't comment on is that her first sentence doesn't state the pieces. She broke it into 2 sentences. So telling her that and telling her like how I do it.
Awesome. So there is an actual revision that you can suggest and you can put that in now. Yeah. Great. Awesome. Who else? What did you decide to do? Jose,
Oh.
what are you working on here?
My first comment, I noticed that most of it was just appraisal, and I left out a lot of like, although I think I was very direct with what I was saying, I still missed a lot of the things that like she could have improved in, and so yeah, working on that.
So you're going to work on adding additional things that can be improved. Awesome. Anybody else? What did you add? Yeah.
I gave positive feedback, but I didn't give a lot of criticism. I don't really like to criticize a lot. I just add maybe, not like hard criticism. I just give like, what they should improve on, not really telling them what exactly is bad. So I'm trying to be more hard on them, I guess.
It's a comfort thing, right?
Yeah.
So that we can become more comfortable. Hopefully some of the examples help you to get the language. It's getting the language of how can I do this without being mean.
No exclamation points.
Yeah, no exclamation points. All right, I will come around if you want any help. If not, thank you so much for being a part of this workshop today. And I will see all of you either online or in class. And thank you all who came via mobile.